Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS for the third event of the 2018 International GTOpen season, as you join us as the 30-minute qualifying session that will set the grid for the fifth race of the campaign gets underway around the legendary home of the Belgian Grand Prix. You join myself, Ben Evans, on a somewhat overcast morning here in the Ardennes. The weather forecast for this afternoon is very inclement, and as you can see at Lake Om, it is already pretty inclement with really misty, damp morning here. Lots of precipitation in the air, but it's not yet really falling as rain on the circuit. The drivers have got 30 minutes to play with. They've got their allocation of Michelin tyres to get them through the weekend. So we're going to see lots of tactics at play as Giovanni Venturini tries to pick his way in the green Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan around Valentin Pierberg in the SPS Automotive Mercedes that he shares with Tom Onslow-Cole. Coming into the weekend, it is the Luzik Racing Ferrari driver, or Michael Mack, who leads the championship. Mack having been victorious in both of the races, starts the season in Estoril. Solid weekend in Paul Ricard for him. Second in the standings then for Andres Saravia and Fran Rueda. They claimed a win in Paul Ricard, as did Andrea Montermini and Daniele Diamato. And it is Montermini with whom we ride on board with now, the most successful individual driver in the history of the International GTOpen, and he and Diamato in the RS Racing Ferrari have provided us with some great entertainment through the course of the season so far. Of course, there are three classes to watch for. There is the overall championship in the All-Pro class, the Pro-Am championship, which is currently headed by Miguel Ramos and Fabrizio Crestani, two former outright champions in the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan. And then it's Alexander Fraquina and Martin Conrad who lead the AM championship in the HTP Motorsport MS Racing Mercedes, and the Austrian pairing will be hoping for a better trip to the Ardennes than they had a year ago when the car was eliminated from the weekend early on in race one. Another drive to watch for in these conditions is going to be Toby Sowry in the second of the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan. Sowry, who qualified on pole position in the wet in Estoril at the start of the season, and is certainly going to be a driver worth keeping tabs on as the session unfolds. And what we can expect to see is some of the cars might go for a couple of flying runs, others will keep it to a solitary run and try and hold their tyre allocation back for the later on in the weekend. Montermini backing right out of the pace, trying to get a little bit of clear air before he picks up the throttle in the RS Racing Ferrari. There is the AM class leading car of Raquina and Conrad, and it is Martin Conrad who is at the wheel for this qualifying session. Therefore, that car not a bad bet at all for pole position in the AM class. As Conrad exits Fagnes, picks his way through Courbe Paul Frere before accelerating on towards Blanchimont. We only had one casualty yesterday in free practice. That was Steve Parrow, one of the trio of Rinaldi Racing Ferraris, who had a fairly substantial off. The team, though, are reasonably confident that they will be able to get that car repaired. The Rinaldi team expanding to 3 cars this weekend because Rinat Salikov has joined the entry and is going to be completing both races single-handedly. We've also got 3 other very significant new entries. First of all, the Senkia Racing BMW in the hands of Richard Gonda and Joel Eriksson, and it is Gonda whom has taken to the wheel this season. The Aston Martin Brussels Jan Vertonghen backed Aston Martin of Tim Verbeekt and Wolfgang Riep, and then Luzik Racing expanding to 3 cars this weekend with a very strong driver pairing of Marco Ciocci and Matt Griffin, and it is Ciocci whom we follow now immediately on the pace, the Italian who was partnering Michael Mack in Paul Ricard, but with Alessandro Pierguidi now available this weekend to partner Mack. The Luzik team expanding as Toby Sowry goes quickest for the session thus far, 2 minutes 17 1:04.6 as we follow the progress of the Danish driver Mikkel Mack through Fania. It's just pursuing the ARC Bratislava Lamborghini Huracan. Car shared by Miro Konopka and Konstantin Kauko. As Mack, headlights ablaze. He's just set the fastest middle sector of the session so far. Maybe doesn't mean all that much on the first flying lap of the session. We'll find out momentarily as he riffles down through the gears, picks his pace up out of the chicane and accelerates through on his way. And Matt goes quickest to 2:17.087. Andrea Montermini's gone second. Here is Toby Sowry, and Sowry absolutely flying in the early stage of this lap. He's coming towards the end of the second sector now, and he's a little bit adrift. He's 4/10 back from Mikkel Mack. So unlikely to be a pole position lap this for Toby Sowry, the graduate from the British Formula 3 Championship. Nonetheless, the potential for a very good time and being well up there in the Pro-Am class. Richard Gonda, meanwhile, has gone second in the Senke Racing BMW. So that shuffles Sowry to third. See whether or not he can recover some of that as he comes across the start and finish line now. And yeah, the lap going away from him a little bit through the second phase. Here is Valentin Pierberg as Giovanni Venturini goes second. So Pierberg peels out of the lap. So the order is Mikkel Mack from Giovanni Venturini in second. Third is Richard Gonda. Fourth, Andrea Montermini. Fifth, Toby Sowry in Pro-Am pole. In sixth is Riccardo Agostini. Now this is a car, so this is the Rinaldi Racing car of Renat Salikov. Salikov just goes 14th. Car could be worth watching for is his teammate David Perel, treble 3, who was absolutely flying in race 1 in Paul Ricard. And Perel just coming towards the end of his first flying lap as Alex West in the Pro-Am Luzik Racing Ferrari crosses line to go into 16th position. He is being pursued by the Drivex Mercedes, and then David Perel goes 9th. It's Marcello Hahn, who is well up there in the Pro-Am Championship, third in the standings. And this weekend, he is partnered by Alam Kader. As Hahn accelerates downhill into the compression at Eau Rouge before picking up the pace, climbing out of Radion. He's got David Perel tucked up behind him, and Perel flashing his headlights in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. And certainly the green Ferrari carrying a fair bit more exit speed out of Eau Rouge and through Radion. Still flashing his headlights, and Perel might slide past on the way into Les Combes. He does so. Meanwhile, Mikkel Mack currently in pole. Second, Venturini third. Richard Gonda up to fourth. Now has come Fernando Reis in the Ombra Racing Lamborghini Huracan. And Reis, alongside Damiano Fioravanti, having a really strong weekend in Paul Ricard, enough to propel them to fourth in the championship. Giovanni Venturini on a good lap at the moment in the reigning champion in the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracan. Mikkel Mack also on a good lap, having just gone quicker than anybody through the first sector. It's already 1/3 the way through the session, and it has been very, very lively so far. Venturini, fractional improvement for second place. He's just shy of 2/10 adrift of Mack. Richard Gonda consolidating third. And this lap for Fernando Reis, not such a good one. In his last lap as well has been disqualified, so he gets shuffled down to 12th overall. As Mikkel Mack emerges behind Marcio Basso in the Teo Marti Motorsport BMW at quite a rate. The Danish driver who was supremely fast last year alongside Miguel Ramos has really relished the performance of the Luzik Racing Ferrari in the opening exchanges of the 2018 campaign. still very close in that we've got Ferrari, Lamborghini and BMW looking out the top 3 places. David Perel has gone 4th now in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. That puts him into Pro-Am pole. 5th then is Andrea Montermini. 6th in the Optima Motorsport Audi has come Bradley Ellis. 7th is Toby Sowry. 8th is Riccardo Agostini. Marco Ciocci 9th, and then Alberto Di Folco completing the top 10 in the Target Racing Lamborghini Huracan. So that's how it looks a third of the way through the session. The Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs yet to show their hand, as is Tim Verbeek in the Aston Martin Brussels car. Here is Richard Gonda. And Gonda, who is no stranger to the paddock. He's raced in the Euro Formula Open before. He raced in the FIA Formula 2 Championship as well, going back a few years ago. He peels into the pit lane. Mac headlights ablaze, pursues Fernando Reis. Now here is Toby Sowry, pushing a little bit too hard in the Lamborghini Huracan. Runs out wide, and unfortunately that's probably cost him a chance to improve on successive laps. So here is Tim Verbeek in the Aston Martin Brussels car. One is also their Ramos pole position mark, personal best through the first sector in the Senki Racing BMW. Fascinating to see how this car goes through the course of the weekend. Joel Eriksson, who partners Gonda, very, very highly rated by BMW. So this a chance for Gonda to show what he's really capable of, but also Joel Eriksson to start his stall as a top-level GT racer. And this, for Richard Gonda, is looking as if it might be enough to possibly pit David Perel at the top of the times. Fastest middle sector of anybody. As he accelerates through Blanchimont. Again, uses every inch of the road. The headlights on the BMW glowing yellow. Slows the car for the chicane. He needs to find 0.4 of a second, and he finds much more than that. Pole position by 0.3 of a second for Richard Gonda. Tim Verbeek in pursuit in the Aston Martin Brussels car, and Verbeek goes 12th with that effort. But for Richard Gonda, that is a real benchmark. 2 minutes 16.1 for Gonda. Toby Sowry, meanwhile, has leapt up into 5th place in the Daiko Lazarus Lamborghini Huracan. Shuffles Giovanni Venturini into 6th. It's not been the greatest session for the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini Huracans. Riccardo Agostini is currently in 11th position. And Raffaele Giammaria in 16th. So both Toby Sowry and Richard Gonda are on good laps. Marco Ciocci's just gone 7th. The second of the Zik Racing Ferraris. In terms of the AM class, it's Antonio Coimbra who leads the way from Martin Conrad and Rinat Salikov. Still yet to see a flying lap from Andres Saravia. So Lewandowski in the AM class, Cenzo Suspiria Racing Lamborghini Huracan. And Saravia now posts the time. He goes into 14th with his first effort of the session, 2 minutes 17.9. And the time spread is really very, very close. The top 15 cars separated by exactly 1.9 seconds. Antonio Coimbra, the AM class pole sitter, leads a train of cars along the Kemmel Straight, and it's Giovanni Venturini. And here is Rinat Salikov. Richard Gonda, meanwhile, coming to the end of another lap. This is not going to be an improvement. Just wonder whether or not we might see the Senki Racing BMW ducking into the pits at this stage. Gonda lining up for another lap. 9 minutes remain in the session. Lap time's just over 2¼ minutes, so the window of opportunity for improvement is slowly closing. No improvement either for Toby Sowry. Andrea Montermini, however, in the RS Racing Ferrari, is on the cusp of setting his best lap of the session. Raffaele Gianmaria has just improved to 12th. As Gonda accelerates out of Radion, carries so much speed up the hill as he needs to. As the Kemmel straight, he's climbing all the while. Bradley Ellis has gone 7th. The Optima Motorsport Audi. Here comes Andrea Montermini then, accelerating towards the close of the lap. He's got Valentin Pierberg ahead of him as Montermini goes 5th at 2 minutes 16.8. And Mikkel Mack, just behind him on the road, has gone 3rd. So Mack at 2 minutes 16.4. And the Danish driver setting the fastest 3rd sector of anybody of the session, as David Prell has just set the fastest middle sector of anybody of the session. So there's still everything to go for. And once more, a thoroughly entertaining qualifying session for the International GTOpen. And that's Salakov, still bottled up behind one of the Vincenzo Sospiri Racing Lamborghini Huracans. A pair of them plunge downhill. Here is Perel then, and he gave way about a 10th or 2 through the first sector, and he goes quickest to 2 minutes 15.8 for David Perel in the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. And so that puts him now 3/10 clear of Richard Gonda again. It spreads the field once more. And there's another real benchmark for the rest of the field. So Mikkel Mack could be the driver to watch in the Luzik Racing Ferrari, with Mack having gone quicker than anybody through the first sector. Perel on that last lap, however, went quicker than anybody else through the second and third sectors. Headlights ablaze through the murk along the Kemmel straight. Time for 2 or 3 more flying laps. And that not quite as quick through the first sector for Perel. A couple of tenths adrift of the best of the session. So here is Mikkel Mack in pursuit of Valentin Pierberg. He's just about to head towards Stavelot, then the blast towards Blanchimont. It's a good middle sector for Mikkel Mack. It's his personal best. Ferrari driver gets his head down. The Mercedes rumbles ahead of him. Pierberg currently 21st overall. There's Riccardo Agostini from Parallel Racing has posted an excellent lap to go 3rd overall as Pierberg runs wide and rejoins the track right in the path of Mikkel Mack. Mack slides past him. That might have cost Mack a 10th or 2, and that could be critical because he's now in 4th. Blasts through, over the line, goes 2nd to 2 minutes 16.125. Pips out Richard Gonda by 11,000th of a second to start from the front row of the grid as it stands. Mikkel Mack, though, we know there is possibly a little bit more to come from him. Riccardo Agostini is continuing a superb run of laps. He's currently 4th overall. There in the background is Parallel Racing Lamborghini Huracan of Agostini, just a little bit wide through Bruxelles. That might allow him to carry some momentum downhill. David Perel also on a good lap. You really don't know where to look, do you? Because there are some excellent performances being posted all around the field. Perel's just come past our commentary box and didn't improve, but was still quicker than anybody else in the session. Through Fagna, he's got Marco Ciocci in his eye line in another of the Luzik Racing Ferraris. Mikkel Mack, quickest of anybody through the first sector. Riccardo Agostini, 4/10 adrift of a pole position time through the middle sector, but it might still be enough to elevate the Italian towards the front row of the grid. Through Blanchimont, the cars just kicking over the edge of the circuit, using the camber of Blanchimont before that blast into the chicane. So Ciocci unlikely to improve on this lap. Riccardo Agostini potentially may. doesn't, though, in the end. Fraction of a second adrift, 300 slower than his best. The Imperiale Racing Lamborghini team, by stealth, they're now well represented. They're 4th and 5th, with Venturini having climbed up to complete the top 5. Alberto Di Folco in 6th. Then Montermini, Sauri 7th and 8th. Michael Mack completes lap, doesn't improve. So he's going to have to settle for 2nd position for the time being. Bradley Ellis losing his best lap due to track limits. So 3.5 minutes remain in the session. David Perel still quickest from Michael Mack, then Richard Gonda in 3rd from Riccardo Agostini, who we watch now, in 4th. Giovanni Venturini 5th, Alberto Di Folco 6th, Andrea Montermini 7th from Toby Sauri in 8th, Marco Ciocci in 9th, Andres Saravia completing the top 10. Are there going to be any last twists in the tail? There, I'm pleased to report, is the 3rd of the Rinaldi Racing cars. That is the Steve Parrow Christian Hook car, which was damaged yesterday. He's out on track now here. We're in car with Andres Saravia now. I just wonder whether Saravia might be able to pull something out of the bag late on. His teammate, Lorenzo Berau de Viega, meanwhile, has just gone into 5th position. So Berau goes 5th. Saravia got in his pocket. One would anticipate he's probably going to be catching Christian Hook over the course of this lap. Somebody has a little bit of a tyre squeal on the exit of Les Combes. Unfortunately, nobody in the gravel trap. 2 minutes to run. And both Saravia and Berau de Viega are the men to watch at the moment in the brace of Teo Martin Motorsport BMWs. Marcio Basso in the 3rd of the cars, currently 26th overall. Blue flag being waved on the way towards Pouat, and this is bad news for Saravia. He's caught the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari at just the wrong point on the circuit, because he's going to have to back out of it. It's going to cost him quite a heap of time. What Saravia really would like to do is clear the Ferrari. He should get over the line for one more tilt at this, but it's going to be pretty marginal. He can't afford to back off and buy himself 10 seconds or so worth of clear air. See momentarily, yeah, that's cost Saravia 3 seconds or thereabouts. Crikey, through Pouat. He's now going to look to blast past on the way towards Blanchimont as the BMW closes right up to the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, and Saravia scythes past. And hopefully, if you're a fan of the Teo Martin Motorsport team, Saravia won't have got through the best of his tyres on a lap where he's unlikely or unable to improve. So he is going to sneak through. He's going to get one more tilt at it, and he's going to have a relatively clear track with which to play with. Michael Mack, meanwhile, is also flying. He's just done the fastest first sector of anybody, trying to wrestle pole position back from David Perel. Rinat Salikov, meanwhile, has taken a AM class pole position with a superb time of 2 minutes 16.820. Really showing that the Rinaldi Racing Ferraris are very, very well sorted for this weekend. Lorenzo Berau de Viega didn't improve. 9 seconds left in the session, so this is the final lap. Final attempt for Michael Mack as he turns through Pouat. The checkered flag comes out in front of us as Mack, headlights ablaze, arrives into Fagnes. It's a superb first sector. If Mack can sustain that momentum, he's got no cars around him. He's turning into Stavelot, where we'll find out where he is, and he's a little bit adrift, so the middle sector has really taken away what he earned through the first sector, but if he's trimmed out the aero, as long as he holds his nerve through Blanchimont, might yet sneak something from this lap. Comes through the right-hander on the way towards the chicane. He'll be greeted by the checkered flag. And decides nothing doing. comes across the line to close the session and is going to have to settle for second position. That was a great lap from David Perel. He really left it all out on the track throughout the course of qualifying. Oh, desperately close to the wall on the way into Eau Rouge for Riccardo Agostini. Not a single millimetre to spare. There are a couple of cars still circulating, but it's unlikely that any of them are going to be posting anything in the way of improvements. Sets us up brilliantly for the race this afternoon, which the green flag lap is 3 Central European time, so do make sure that you join us for that. That was a really, really impressive qualifying performance from Perel.
First time.
As you can see, he thoroughly enjoyed that. Great job as well from Richard Gonda and the Senkia Racing team. They are going to line up in third place. Championship leader Mikael Mack, front row of the grid. It's not quite pole, but it still leaves him beautifully poised to take a good points haul from this afternoon. So look then how they've qualified. Pole positions for Rinaldi Racing and David Perel from championship leader Mikael Mack, with whom he shares the front row. Then it is Richard Gonda, Senkia Motorsport, in third, ahead of Riccardo Agostini, leading the Imperiale Racing Lamborghini charge. Lorenzo Berard Viegra, an excellent fifth late on in the session for Teo Martin Motorsport. Giovanni Venturini, last year's champion, in sixth. Rinat Salakov taking the AM class pole, a superb lap late in the session for seventh. He shares row four with Alberto Di Folco. Andrea Monterni and Toby Sowry are going to race very hard from the fifth row of the grid, particularly if the rain comes down later on. The same can be said for Ombra Racing and Fernando Reis. Bradley Ellis well up in the Pro-Am class for Optimum Motorsport in 12th. Marco Ciocci and Andres Saravia have got some work to do from the seventh row of the grid, with Raffaele Giammaria and Antonio Coimbra on row 8. Tim Verbecht and Kang Ling, 17th and 18th, with Miguel Ramos and Martin Conrad completing the top 20. Valentin Pierberg will come through the field, as will Marcello Hahn and Alexander West as the race unfolds, with a great AM class battle in prospect between Andrei Lewandowski, Miro Konotka, Marcio Basso and Christian Hook. Huge field of cars, 70 minutes of racing to look forward to this afternoon. It gets underway at 3:20 local time. Make sure you join us for that. Until then, it's goodbye from Spa.